Disney Plus is at it again, this time remaking a movie that has been done many a times with the Disney version of Pinocchio. And this film has been getting a lot of bad reviews, and not many people are really enjoying this film. Am I on their side, or do I think this film is pretty good? Find out my thoughts next. A puppet is brought to life by a fairy who assigns him to lead a life in order to become a real boy. The film stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Tom Hanks, Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, Angus Wright, Cynthia Erivo, and Keegan-Michael Kay, and was directed by Robert Zemeckis, who has done films like Back to the Future, Forrest Gump, Castaway, and many others. So I never watched a trailer for Pinocchio. I heard a lot of people talking really bad about this film and saying how bad it really is. And so going into this film, I had really low expectations. So what can I really say positive about this film? So I did like the relationship with Pinocchio and the ballerina that actually happens when the point of when he actually is in the cage with Stromboli, when he's trapped in that cage, even though the fairy godmother never comes around, which is really strange. I found that Tom Hanks' performance was really blah. I usually like him as an actor, and I really didn't really care about him as Geppetto. I found that Jiminy Cricket's performance, it was all right. He's just not a really, I guess you would say, the best Jiminy Cricket, I would say, but he's not as bad as the Jiminy Cricket that I saw in the last Italian version film, which I think was released in 2019, 2020, I forget now, but that film, I remember Jiminy Cricket was just plain awful. I think in this film, he's okay. I think that Stromboli in this film is absolutely terrible. He's too goofy. He doesn't feel like this really terrifying kind of villain like in the original 1940 film. He just seems like some big old fat dude that is just kind of walking around like Santa Claus or something, and I just felt like he just wasn't really scary at all. I found the humor between Honest John and Gideon to be very lackluster. I didn't like the whole joke where they tried to rename Pinocchio and call him Chris Pine. I just found that that was really insulting the intelligence of the audience. I found that the Pleasure Island scenes, they're not as powerful as the original movie. They're drinking root beer and the whole donkey transformation. It's definitely not as powerful and as, I would say, scary as the original film. And I found like there were a lot of points in this film where the CGI, it wasn't very good. They also changed the portion of the film where they get swallowed by a whale. They call it a sea monster, but they still keep the same name and they still keep the same way of how they escape. Now, how they actually choose to end this film, I really am not in agreement with, because when we watch the original Pinocchio, and if we've watched most Pinocchios and remakes, he turns into a real boy, which in this film, he does not. While you can feel mixed feelings for a father really caring for his child, and you can feel that Pinocchio really feels for his father, as when he goes to go out on this adventure to go save his father, because he finds out that Geppetto actually ends up selling all his clocks to go find him. You see that love between both characters, but I would say that Tom Hanks and Pinocchio playing off of each other in this film, I didn't really find most of the time that their relationship was that wholesome. I also didn't like in the beginning of the film where they already had Pinocchio already made and on the shelf. I like how in the original film, how we get a little bit of buildup of how he actually has this wooden puppet, and it goes a little bit more into details about Geppetto. But I found in this film, they kind of rushed that a little bit. I found that the fairy godmother was a complete worthless character in this film, and she really didn't do anything in this film. They pretty much could have wrote her out, and it really wouldn't have made a difference because she's barely in the film. Also, the music in this film, it's not very good. I didn't care for a lot of the newer songs that they had in this film. They weren't really catchy. And a little bit more of a nitpick is I wish that Figaro was actual real cat, because in this one he is CGI, and that was a little bit disappointing. I think they could have had a real cat for this actual film, but they chose not to. Overall, I really wasn't much of a fan of this film. For the most part, I think this is just another remake that really didn't need to be made, and Disney trying to profit off another classic film that just doesn't need to be touched at this point. Even though you have some pretty good actors in this film, I just don't feel like it's up to par as to what some of these actors can actually do. And that's why I'm gonna give a score of this film a 1.5 out of 5. Didn't really enjoy this film at all. I love the original story, and I did like certain portions, which wasn't really that much in this film, but I still enjoy that classic 1940s film, and nothing I think can really touch that film. But thank you guys for watching this review, and let me know in the comments, did you like this film? Did you hate it? Was it kind of meh? Let me know. Thank you guys for watching this review, and I'll see you guys on my next review.